You are not saving anything. You are literally losing thousands of dollars, if not tens of thousands of dollars.
Welcome to the Re-Strategy Podcast. I'm your host, Samantha Graff, alongside my co-hosts, Shannon Hall and Mark Jarbo. Join us as we lift the veil on the real estate industry and give you the tools to become a more savvy home buyer, seller, agent, and lender. Stay tuned because we're about to lay it all out on the table. Welcome back to the Re-Strategy Podcast. You are joining us on episode 4, which recording it once wasn't enough. Recording it twice wasn't enough. So we said, hey, how about a third time of attempting to record?
Why not?
So
we have all the time in the world.
Apparently. So this episode is all about dual agency. I like to call it the biggest con in real estate. And I think we're just going to let Shannon take it from here because this is all her.
It is all me.
I actually like this topic.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
Why do you like this topic so much?
I like it because it really kind of opens the curtains, right? And now you could really see the truth.
Like the Wizard of Oz?
The Wizard of Oz. It really helps people.
So does that make me
Tells the truth.
the wizard?
That makes you the
No,
wizard. But in a good way.
you're like the what was that? The nice witch? Which one?
Glinda?
Glenda? The
Glenda.
good witch?
The good witch. Good witch of the West.
Or are you Toto because you're the one
No.
who really pulls back the curtain? I don't know.
I don't really know. It's been a long time since I've seen that movie.
It's a classic. All right, but dual agency. Kick us
Let's
off.
just talk about what dual agency is first.
Yeah.
It's when an agent represents both sides of the transaction. Now, an agent can practice dual agency. It's legal in the state of Michigan. It is illegal in other states, but here in Michigan, it's still legal. Typically, what happens is an agent will start out representing a seller, and if a buyer comes through the house, say during an open house, or maybe calls the agent on the phone, wants to see the house, the agent that's listing the home will talk the seller into becoming a dual agent,
For them.
saving the seller a percentage of the commission, which in theory sounds really good. But what they don't tell you is they're no longer representing you with the full range of fiduciary duties. We're going to talk about fiduciary duty in a minute. Now, there are agents that will list a house and they will do it with consensual dual. So they disclose up front that they could potentially be a dual agent on this house, meaning represent the buyer. And they're supposed to disclose that to other agents in our system, in our MLS system, our multiple listing service. But oftentimes they don't disclose it. And the issue with non-disclosure of dual agency is that if I'm a buyer's agent on this property and I'm showing this property, oftentimes if that listing agent, who is now a dual agent, has their own buyer, my offer won't be submitted. The communication will be less with me because they're trying to pick up the other end of that mission.
So you're saying that if I'm a seller and I agree to a dual agency,
Yes.
and my agent brings in some buyer that they like, yeah, this is a good offer,
Uh-huh.
that if there's an offer for $20,000 over asking, I may not see that?
Yes, you may not see that.
That is unbelievable.
It happens all the time.
Wow.
It's not legal, but it happens all the time. People are people. You have to remember, as a seller, you're hiring a person. So you want to really know who it is that you're hiring. And if this person has a track record of what we call in the industry double dipping every single listing that they have, I could assure you that there is communication that is not going on with you as the client and with other cooperating agents.
Wow.
I know.
That's unbelievable.
It is unbelievable.
It's sad, actually.
Yeah, well, it happened to me. So, real quick story. Several years ago, I showed my clients a property, probably like half hour from my office, and it just hit the market, and my clients were interested in seeing it. I had one more property to show them after that. So I called the listing agent on my way home or on my way to the next showing. And the agent said, "Oh no, we're having an open house this weekend. Don't worry about it. The seller's not going to be even looking at offers until probably after the weekend." I said, "Okay, no problem. Uh, I'm gonna still get it to you today. I'm gonna show them one more house." As soon as I get back to my office to write the offer, the house was pending.
Wow.
Not just like accepting backup offers, but straight up pending, which meant no more offers will be looked at.
Wow.
Right. So I called the agent. She didn't return my call, and then I tracked it and saw that she had picked up the other side of it.
Did she
Undisclosed dual. Didn't say she was closing. Didn't say she was a dual agent, and she also brought the buyer. And this was probably like 2020. So the market was really hyper. It was really, really hot.
Wow, yeah.
Holy
The seller
cow.
would have made a whole lot more money. And, sellers think like, okay, I'm going to save 1%. And let's just say in this case, I don't remember the price of the house, but let's just say the seller was going to save $4,000, a 1% commission by letting that agent bring a buyer to it. Well, my offer would have been 5 times that savings.
That's
So
ridiculous.
it doesn't make any sense. It literally makes no sense.
Oh my God.
But sellers get talked into it. And what they don't understand is if you allow an agent to practice dual agency, now you have limited fiduciary duty.
What is fiduciary duty?
So fiduciary duty, we can use the acronym OLD CAR to talk about what it means. So O, being obedient. Being obedient. So if I'm an agent and I'm representing a seller or a buyer, my job is to be obedient to their wishes as long as they're legal.
Right.
Okay. I've gone on listing appointments where people have said to me, "Well, I don't want to sell to a certain race or a certain culture, and I can't take the listing. By law, I can't take the listing because I already know they're going to discriminate. So in that case, I don't have to be obedient. But when they tell me to do something, I have to do that. No matter how I feel about it, if I've told them everything, it's still up to the client to make the decision. Okay.
Yeah.
So obedience is a big deal. Loyalty is another big deal. That's the L of old car. And that means being loyal to my client and making sure that I'm doing everything to act in their best interest. So, which takes us to disclosure, right? So disclosure would be the D in old car. And that's like, if I learn anything about a property that may not be on seller disclosures, maybe it's something that isn't required to be on a seller disclosure. Or let's say I know that they're going to be putting a strip club up next door, right? I would have to tell my client, "Hey, there's a strip club going up next door. I was sitting in on a city meeting and this is like, do you want to live next to a strip club?" Right? Like,
Right.
Or if I'm a listing agent on a house, I sell the house and then the house hits the market again. And maybe I'm not the listing agent this time, but I'm the buyer agent this time. I still have to talk to my client that's with me and let them know, like, I've represented this house before. I know who these people are or whatever I might know about them. Disclosure is a really, really important thing. Also, if I'm a listing agent and I learn something about the property, I have to personally disclose it. If the seller didn't disclose it, I have to disclose it. So if I have a seller say to me, "Yeah, my basement flooded and I know the sewer line is probably not good," or "We had the sewer line scoped and there's like a couple cracks in it," but they don't fill that out on seller disclosure, as a listing agent, I have to disclose that to other people. That's required by law. And the next one would be like C. So an old car. C is confidentiality, and that's maintaining anything that my clients don't want shared with another agent or anybody else at the open house, for example, or whomever. Somebody maybe is getting divorced, or maybe somebody, like in Michigan, we're a non-disclosure death state. So if somebody died in the home, I don't have to say somebody died in the home. But if somebody asked me if anyone ever died in this home and I had knowledge of that, I do have to disclose that.
That's
okay?
hilarious because we
But-
asked on mine and they said she moved up north, but the neighbors were like, "Yep, she died in the bedroom right where she wanted to be."
Oh my God.
I don't
And,
care, but
Well, we're not a death disclosure state. And I don't know if the agent that sold you this house,
It
sold the
doesn't
house,
matter, I
listed
wouldn't
this
care,
house, knew
but-
that. But We can only go by what people say.
Sure.
I mean, fortunately, death doesn't freak you out. It shouldn't freak anybody out. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. But confidentiality, I'm not going to tell somebody, oh, my client's getting divorced. Oh, my clients are, you know, in bankruptcy and they have to sell this house or things of that nature. Like, I can't disclose any of that stuff. Accounting would be the A in old car. That's accounting for all the money that would be involved in this transaction that I may take in as a broker or the title company takes in, just giving a true accounting for all the cash that is being utilized pre-mortgage if it's going to be, you know,
Accounting.
It's just
Yeah.
It's
It's accounting.
Yeah.
it's accounting.
And then reasonable care is the last one, right?
Yeah, reasonable care means that I'm being careful about how I practice real estate, that I'm practicing what I know. For example, especially in the state of Michigan, this is a big deal. I cannot be practicing in a field that I am 100% not familiar with. So, for example, if I were an agent that didn't understand
Commercial?
maybe duplexes or
Rentals.
rentals, for example, that I shouldn't offer my service to somebody in that field because I'm not an expert in that field. I don't have any experience in that field. And I'm not saying agents can't practice outside of that field, but they should do it with another agent or with their broker
Yeah.
at the helm and helping them through it so they can learn it. Because yes, you can learn from books, but really when you practice is when you really start learning. So that's really what fiduciary duty is. It's the old car acronym: obedience, loyalty, disclosure, confidentiality, accounting, and reasonable care.
So
Okay.
I have a quick question for
Yeah.
you. For those agents that are doing this dual agency thing, right?
Well, hold on, hang on to that for a second because
Sure.
what I want to talk about is there. So we have those six things, right? That you can. Those are like the fiduciary. That is what fiduciary duty is. It's made up of those six things. In a dual agency transaction, you're giving up some, if not all,
Yeah.
of those fiduciary duties.
That's literally what I was going to ask you.
Oh, is that where you were going?
Yes.
Okay. So if I'm giving up fiduciary duty as a seller, what am I giving up?
That's
So-
exactly the question I was going to say.
Right. So when you contract an agent, they're supposed to give you a form that says, okay, I'm going to be a dual agent. You've agreed to this. Check. Yes, I agree to it. All right. These are all the things that you're giving up. This is all the ways I protect you. But now, seller, since you're giving that up, here's all the ways I'm not protecting you. And some of those ways could be like accepting offers and delivering them to the seller on time.
Yep.
Or delivering to the seller at all, and which would be presenting them. Another one may be assisting in communication or negotiation strategies. Like, that's why you hire an agent. You
The
want them
idea
to
of a real estate
negotiate for
agent
you,
to
right?
negotiate.
Right. I mean, but if it's just transactional, and really that's what dual agency becomes, is just transactional. So if somebody's saying, I'm going to knock 1% off of my representation, well, why don't you just knock it all the way down to 1%? Because really it's just becoming transactional at this point.
Yeah.
You're not really helping the seller. You're not helping the buyer. The negotiations become an open negotiation. And you're really just saying, this person said this person said that. Oh, they want to do this. Oh, they want to
Yeah.
do that. But you really can't serve two masters. And the reason why buyer agency came along was because it used to be that there was just a listing agent. That was it. And the buyers didn't have representation. So for somebody to say, I'm going to agree to dual agency, what are you agreeing to? And why are you agreeing to it? You literally have no representation except somebody pushing paperwork and making sure the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed and everybody's happy. And that's it.
Yeah.
That's a transaction coordination
I have
job.
one more question. Who wins in this situation?
Well, who do you think wins? The agent. Right.
So either party on the seller and the buyer side
Yeah.
don't win.
They don't win because
Only the agent wins.
the agent's always going to feel one way toward one client or one party to this transaction over another party. It's just going to happen.
It's not practical.
I know we've used this analogy before, but I think it just hits the nail on the head so hard. It's like filing a lawsuit against somebody and using the same lawyer as the defendant. Like, why? Why on earth? It's
Right.
so
If I'm
stupid.
the plaintiff, I do not want to be represented by the defendant's attorney. I'm already going to lose.
Crazy.
And it's really the same thing. And while we're not attorneys, and I want to be clear on that, there's literally no sense to hire an agent as a dual agent. The only person that wins is the agent.
So what
It's
if
a really, really bad idea. And what scares me even more is with these NAR lawsuits coming up and buyer agency not going away, but buyers can barely, and Mike, you can attest to this as
Yeah.
a lender, buyers can barely afford to get into the house, let alone pay for representation. So if the seller isn't kicking in toward the buyer agency portion, obviously it's going to be a lot more difficult for buyers to get into the home unless the mortgage industry changes and they allow the financing of that, which they don't right now. But basically, buyers are just going to end up going to listing agents, and they're really going to get raked over the coals, and they're really going to lose. Because that listing agent, unless the relationship started out as dual agency, they only represent the seller. And it has to be agreed upon by both parties in writing that listing agent representing the seller is now going to become a dual agent between the buyer and the seller. So sellers, if you start out as if your agent starts out as a seller agent, do not let them switch to dual. You are not saving anything. You are literally losing thousands of dollars, if not tens of thousands of dollars.
So the seller can actually say that to the realtor, right? That, hey, you can't be a dual agent if you're going to list my house.
If the agent has a listing agreement, say they've written their listing agreement out, it's been signed, they've done their agency disclosure, and they've disclosed that they're only going to be a seller agent, that's the end of the conversation. It's when the listing agents come back to the seller and say, hey, I got this buyer, and you know what? If you let me bring this buyer, I'll knock my commission down X amount percentage or percentages. Why
Jeez.
would they do that?
So what I'm hearing is, don't fucking do it.
No, seriously,
Yeah.
don't do it. You're paying an agent to represent your interest. Why would you give up everything for that?
That's crazy.
Dual agency, guys, don't do it. Just say no.
Just say no to dual
Yeah,
agency.
there's no savings. It's
Yeah.
it's an absolute financial loss.
All right, well, thank you so much. I appreciate you. We're going to head into our next episode, and yeah, just say no, gang. Just say no.
Thanks.
Just say no.
Thanks for joining us on the Re-Strategy Pod. You're the reason we make this podcast, and we'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to be featured and have a real estate story to share, good, bad, or horrific, go to restrategypod.com and share your story with us. Until next time.